What is up, everyone? It is Monday again, so we got another Monday metagame update. We're still looking at Standard, Historic, and Alchemy, and we actually had some tournaments happen, so we got some of those results, and some interesting things going on in the world of Historic, and even Standard has kind of a new champion. Let's get into it. All right, well, let's get into Standard first. Just to reiterate, in case you didn't see my last video, the gameplay content is gonna take a little bit of a pause because of some life events going on, but I'm gonna try to keep up the Monday metagame updates. So yeah, let's talk about it. So in standard from Untapped.gg, we can see that Toxic, Mono White humans, Naya humans, Selesnya humans, Azorius soldier. So pretty much all the white-based aggressive decks are doing very, very well, though Toxic seems to kind of have taken the top spot for now. The sample size is definitely lower, so white humans is probably still the best deck, but at least with small sample size, Selesnya Toxic is a little bit ahead. And then tier 2, below that, Mono Red, Jeskai Control, Esper Legends, every other deck basically. So Standard best of one, very dominated by white-based aggressive decks right now. You kind of hate to see it, but I know some people love that, so there you go. And it's cheap. Most of them are pretty cheap to make. So yeah, there is that. All right, we'll see later. There's some other interesting stuff, but let's move on to best of three. Actually, before that, let's take a look at the Toxic deck. I just wanted to see if they were doing anything new or anything interesting. Soul Partition, Charge of the Mites, Audacity. Okay, Audacity is a little bit interesting. So this is enchantment card that's been seen play in the white-green enchantments deck because it gives you trample, gives you power, and it draws you a card. And it's pretty hard to stop the card draw. Like, it just says when it's put into the graveyard from the battlefield, you draw a card. So yeah, almost all the time it's gonna draw a card. All right, so that is interesting. I guess that's maybe helping the poison get through a little bit easier and still somewhat card advantage. So maybe that's what's kind of pushing the archetype back up to the top again. Okay, well, cool. Let's take a look at best of three. Best of three right now is very dominated by the mono black control decks. Um, in fact, Untapped.g even puts it in a tier by itself at the top, and then everything else as tier 2. The Dimir deck that we've seen do very well. Push down, humans is pushed down, Zori soldiers pushed down. So Mono Black seems to be right now regaining the top spot. It lost some of its powerful cards like Invoke Despair, but still has a lot of players and is in the top spot once again. I guess before it was really Rakdos, so a little bit different, but still Mono Black still showing it has a lot of power even without Fable of the Mirror Breaker and Invoke Despair. So taking a look at the deck, pretty impressive win right here, and we have Liliana, Evolve Sleeper, Underdog, Trespasser, Shieldred, Flesh Gorger, and Gix Command. So pretty much all the really powerhouse black cards. I mean, I've been saying for a long time that this card is too strong, Tenacious Underdog, but it was getting overshadowed by some of the other really strong powerhouse cards in the format. Now they're gone, so it makes sense that this card is seeing a lot of play again. I also think Trespasser is too strong. Just the fact that you can't kill it. I mean, you have to have a sweeper to kill it effectively. And Control is not that viable, and it's not viable in best of one, and not that viable in best of three. So cards like this really punish aggressive decks kind of unfairly, and even other mid-range decks. So yeah, very, very strong. Makes sense to me that it's doing so well in and yeah, I can totally see it. All right, well, let's take a look at historic because we see some new interesting things going on in historic. Before Boros Affinity was kind of the top deck, the deck to beat. We saw a few others do well, like Affinity, the blue-white Affinity, and Hammer Time was doing pretty well, green-white Hammer Time. Abzan Sacrifice hadn't quite picked up yet. It was doing okay, but not phenomenal. But then we saw quite a few prominent streamers doing very well with Abzan's Sacrifice decks. So I think that's why we see it kind of rise up here. And it is very strong. As long as you're playing it well, then it's got all the outs you need to beat the other decks. So very cool that now it's kind of the third best deck almost. At least in this last week of play. And Dimir Control taking the top spot. That is pretty wild to see. Because I can't really imagine what Dimir has over other control decks like Blue-White Control. But I guess you do get Bowmasters and Fatal Push. But let's take a look at the deck list. So 65% win rate in Historic Best of 1. That is quite impressive. We got Snapcaster Mage, Bowmasters, Brazen Borrower. So we're playing kind of a flash-based Dimir deck here. That's pretty cool to see. The Borrower, returning an online permanent can be very useful against like the artifact decks or the enchantment decks as well. And maybe even against some of the the mono white control decks with the Solemnity and stuff like that. So yeah, that's pretty cool to see that they got that working. And of course, Fatal Push is there, Cling to help with the graveyard stuff. Make Disappear, I guess, because now your World Masters are making tokens that you can sack. Heartless Act. Maybe you can remove some counters from... It has to be a creature. I was thinking from the One Ring, but nope. First One Ring in here to draw you a bunch of cards, give you your control elements that you need. And yeah, all the control decks in Historic right now are running this card, so that makes sense. You gotta have it to keep up with the other overpowered decks in the format. But yeah, I don't see anything that special in here. Obviously Bowmasters is quite good, and Snapcaster we all know is really good, and then One Ring is good. So apparently that's enough to make it the top deck right now. Um, interesting. I'll have to see it play out to see how well it really does. But yeah, I'm surprised by this. Okay, well, let's move on to Alchemy for now. Yeah, Alchemy, not a whole lot of decks going on here in the last week, but Rakdos, of course, still very, very good. The Azorius Control deck also very good, but now we've got a Reanimator deck and a Legends deck, both seeing quite a bit of play. And the Reanimator deck, I believe this is the one that Crokies was playing with Atraxa. So you're using your Crucius to make treasures and ramp you, and then you get your Atraxa down to get your One Ring and your Shieldred and all that jazz. So apparently it's pretty good. It's got a higher win rate. It seems to be doing better than the control decks. So yeah, if you like Alchemy, maybe give that a shot. You might have some Atraxas left over from Standard since it sees a lot of play in Standard as well. But yeah, okay, let's go on to the tournament results. We got a couple tournaments this weekend. The Pizza Box Challenge, Pizza Box Open, sorry, that happens most weekends except for, some holidays or things like that. And taken down by Azorius Control, a little surprising. This is Standard, so Azorius Control and Standard wasn't the best deck recently. I mean, Esper Control was seeing some play, but Azorius not so much. And Chrome Host Seed Shark in here. The Fairy, Wandering Emperor, Eternal Wanderer. So Planeswalkers and Chrome Host Seed Shark. I think we saw a version of this a while ago, but it kind of fell out of favor. Also, I think that one used to run 4 Chrome Host Seed Shark, so this one's moved down to just 2, but still, yeah, they managed to make it work. Impulse, Sunfall, no Farewell is surprising, but maybe Farewell hurts you as much as it hurts the opponent, so I didn't want to have that. And then, yeah, Ossification as one of the removal of choice, so it might be why Farewell is not really in the main deck. So yeah, that's interesting. That Azorius took it all down. Might be because a lot of the other decks in the tournament were also control based, and this is just the bigger control list. Not sure, but yeah, Azorius control. This is more standard one we've seen before with the mono white deck with the breach, the multiverse. So that one's pretty normal. Mono white aggro. There's the Esper control that we see sometimes. With the Void Rends being the main reason to go Esper. So interesting. Yeah, that Azorius control list is kind of a new one, but the rest of these pretty standard decks in the standard format. All right, well, let's take a look at another one. This is MTGO Standard Challenge top decks. And you won't believe it, but the top 4 decks were all the mono black control or mid range or whatever you want to call it. Mono black mid range, I think, fits better. Yeah, they're all mono black mid range. So first, second, third, fourth, all mono black mid range. Graveyard Trespasser, Underdog, Evolve Sleeper, Shieldred, Flesh Gorger, Gix Command. Almost exact same list, to be honest. Might even be the same list. So that's kind of crazy. Um, almost though. This one's a little different, I guess. The first place one was a little bit different. So yeah, that is Bizarro World there. You know, we got a few other different decks down here, Dimir and Esper Control and stuff like that. But mono black mid range taking first through fourth place in the challenge. Yeah. So I guess the Untapped.gg saying that mono black is now the top deck makes sense, and we've seen it here. It's still good. Still good. Shoulder, it's still a good card. Wizard, maybe you should ban that. Ban Trespasser. Ban Underdog. I don't know. We'll see. That might be too many cards to ban, but I think they're gonna have to do something probably. Let's move on to the spicy Twitter brews, and we got some interesting ones that I'm gonna show you in a bit. This first one from Alth MTG, Jund Midrange in Historic. This one, they're playing Crucius and Jarsel. So it's kind of very similar to the Rakdos deck, but flashing for Abundant Harvest and Jarsel in here, and of course Boseiju in the mana base. Yeah, it seems solid. I mean, I think the shell there, the Rakdos shell, is already very, very strong. You know, like one of the top historic decks right now. So I think flashing for a few green, interesting cards that are also very strong makes a lot of sense. And I'm not surprised at all to see it do well. So, but yeah, they went on a really, really good win streak, 66-9, getting to third place in the Mythic ranks. So maybe the green gives you that little bit edge over the other Rakdos decks. Yeah, so if you're tired of Rakdos and you're a Rakdos fan, then you can try some Jund. All right, moving on, we have a Grixis version, basically the same thing. Take the Rakdos shell, that's good. Splash for a little bit of other colors. This one's splashing for blue. We got Urtai in here. We got Flame of Anor. Got Make Disappear, and we got Siphon Insight. The Flame of Anor is a little bit strange because you don't really have wizards in here, so a little bit surprised to see that happening there. Yeah, but the rest of it, pretty cool, and you know they got to pretty high mythic, 19-1 win streak, so also doing very, very well with this deck. And then Mistman here giving us kind of a teaser because he says, I'm a blue black mage, but I won't tell you my deck list. And he went 22-2. And you know, Mistman I respect a lot. Very, very solid control player that is always playing the historic format and championing control decks in historic, even when it's not good. So when he says something's good, you gotta believe it. And so I did a little snooping for you guys, and I found his deck list on his Twitch stream. So you guys should check out his Twitch stream. Again, Mistman, very cool person and very, very good control mage. So check out his stream. But this is what he's running, and it's a Lurrus deck with the new card Saruman's Ransom. A very interesting Dimir card draw spell. And also, of course, has Bowmaster and Snapcaster Mage, and a bunch of other really nice control cards, Commit to Memory, Extinction Event, Aeneas, etc. So just a pretty solid control list with, your Lurrus there, because all your creatures are 2 CMC. And you get Pithing Needle, which is another thing you can bring back from Lurrus. Makes sense. And then, yeah, Saruman's Ransom. It seems strong, but I've never seen anyone really playing it in Historic. So kind of cool to see him trying that out. Basically, you look at the top 4 cards, and then your opponent separates them into 2 piles. And one of them's face up and one's face down. And then you pick one and put it in your hand. So if they put 3 cards in one pile and 1 card in another pile, you probably just take the 3 cards, even if they're all lands. And then, they try to trick you by putting some face down or face up, but just basically if you like the face of cards, take the face of cards. Don't worry about what's face down. And if you think the face of cards are just then you can go for the face down ones. No problem. Even if they're lands, it's not that bad. You still get 2 cards at least, so yeah. All right, yeah, that's cool. I will probably try this out at some point in Historic because I'm also a Dimir mage and looks pretty sweet. Didn't really think about doing a Lurrus Dimir control deck in Historic, so definitely something that's interesting. I will say it might give us just enough advantage to where control can be good again. But yeah, pretty sweet. So we got 2 different Dimir decks, both doing well in Historic right now. And doing better than the Hammer Time and Infinity decks, which is really crazy to me because those decks win so quickly. So I'm excited. I'm really excited about that. So definitely I'll be trying that out a little bit later. I think that's going to be it for the Monday metagame update though. And let me know what you think in the comments. Are you excited about any of these new brews or the things going on in Standard? How crazy is that with the mono black just dominating now? But yeah, go out there, try some new stuff out, have some fun on the ladder, and until next time, see ya.